Hey YouTube, Kira Qualia here, bringing you all my Cardfight Vanguard Direful deck profile for post-Illusionless Strife. Big thanks to my buddy Jim for letting me borrow his Direful deck for the video. It's a very interesting deck that focuses on using the bind zone for additional defensive capabilities, while setting up many other Direful dolls, whether they be in your soul, the bind zone, and then being able to use them to either call them out to the guard circle from the bind zone or to the field from the soul. You have a wide variety of cards and new added support from the second Cardfight Vanguard Divines booster set to make use of for the deck. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So for the Rye deck, we have the Energy Generator, along with our starter, being Direful Doll Tanya. When wrote upon, if you went second, draw a card. Our grade 1 is Direful Doll Serenella. When wrote upon by Direful Doll Griselda, you look at the top 7 cards of your deck, choose up to 2 cards with Direful Doll in their card names from among them, put them into the soul, and shuffle the deck. So it's just more setup for the Rye deck being able to get other cards prepared for when you call them out. Our grade 2 is Direful Doll Griselda. When wrote upon by grade 3 with Direful Doll in its card name, you can call this card out to rearguard, which is what a lot of the cards, the Ride decks from the Divine series have. It's just set up for the field with units from your soul to call out. And our grade 3 is Direful Doll Master Android, along with the copy we run in the Ride deck. We also run 3 additional copies in the main deck for the Persona Ride power. On Vanguard Circle, once per turn, you can counterblast 1, choose up to the same number of Workoroid cards with Direful Doll in their card name from your soul as the grade of your opponent's Vanguard. Call them to rearguard. If you called 3 or more cards, it gets drive +1 till end of turn. And on Vanguard, when this unit's attacked, you choose up to 1 Workoroid card with Direful Doll and its card name from your bind zone, call it to the guard circle, and it gets shield +5,000 to the end of that battle. There's that additional defensive capabilities, just being able to choose 1 Workoroid per each time your Vanguard is attacked to make use of against your opponent in a defensive capability. And then the once per turn ability to call out rearguard, so as long as you keep your soul stocked, you have more of a setup for your field. And if you have your bind zone stock, you have more of a setup for your defensive capabilities. For the other grade 3s, 4 copies of Direful Doll Liberata. When placed on rearguard or put on the guard circle, if you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Direful Doll in its card name, choose a card with Direful Doll in its card name from your drop and put into your soul. More setup for your soul Direful Dolls. And on rearguard when it attacks, if you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Direful Doll in its card name, you may have this unit get +10,000 to the end of that battle. If you do at the end of that battle, bind this unit, counter +1, and draw a card, putting it back for the defensive part of the deck for you then to just draw a card to make up for the card that it was on the field also. For the grade 2s, we're running 4 copies of Direful Doll Providenza. With this card, when it attacks a grade 3 or greater unit, if you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Direful Doll in its card name, it gets +10,000 to the end of that battle. And on rearguard at the end of the battle it attacked, if you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Direful Doll in its card name, you can Energy Blast 3 and bind this unit to choose a Workoroid with Direful Doll in a different card name from your soul and call to rearguard. For more multiple attack power, that's what this card is meant to do for that additional setup on the field, along with the power boost they can provide to itself also. For the other grade 2s, the new grade 2 from set 2 is Direful Doll Shelby, running 4 copies of this card also. On rearguard, when this unit attacks a grade 3 or greater unit, put a card with Direful Doll in its card name from your drop into the soul. This unit gets +5 to the end of the battle for each grade of the card put into the soul. So if you have a grade 3 put in the soul, it can get +15. At the end of that battle, bind this unit. The bind part really helps to make up for cards, so you always have defensive cards to use when your Vanguard is attacked. And on the rearguard circle, when this unit attack hits a grade 3 or greater Vanguard, choose one of your opponent's rearguards and retire, having added pressure just for this card to be guarded against your opponent. That's why you definitely want to run 4 of this card, so you always have the option to see it and then use it against your opponent also. For the grade 1s, we're running 4 copies of Direful Doll Pelagia. At the end of the battle, this unit boosted. If you have a Vanguard with Direful Doll in its card name, bind this unit. Choose up to 2 cards with Direful Doll in their card name from your drop. Put them into your soul. More setup for the bind zone while also having setup for your soul to use later on. And on the guard circle, if you have a Vanguard with Direful Doll in its card name, it gets +5,000 shield. So if you use this card as a defensive card for your Vanguard's ability, it'll have the 5k from its own shield, the 5k from its own guard circle ability, and the 5k power from your Vanguard as well, making it a 15k guard on par when you guard with a trigger against your opponent's Vanguard also. So any +10 power can easily be guarded with the 28k shield of just something from the bind zone. We're also running 4 copies of Almagestar Short Sparta. When wrote upon, you would usually use it for the ride deck power from the All Majestar deck, but we use it for its rearguard once per ability. If your opponent's Vanguard's grade 3 or greater, bind a trigger unit from Soul, and this unit gets plus 10,000 till the end of turn. So we do have a Direful Doll trigger that we run in the deck. So being able to, if this card's set up in the Soul, let's say after we guard it from the drop zone, we can use this card from the Soul as an additional bind, and then having this unit get plus 10, and then another card to be able to then use for being able to choose a Workoroid with Direful Doll from our bind zone, call to rearguard, having it get plus 5 means we can have our critical trigger be a 20k guard from the bind zone as well. So very, very strong to run for this for that option. And also 3 copies of the new Direful Doll Zyra. At the end of the battle that this unit boosted, if you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard Direful Doll on its card name, bind this unit to energy charge 1. So an energy charge provided unit, definitely something the deck needed with how much we can use the energy charge ability with our grade 2 Direful Doll Providenza with its Energy Blast 3. So having a card that can always provide that and then just cycle from the bind zone to the drop back and forth is a big part of the setup as well to use for it. And then also we run the additional copies for the grade 1, being the Direful Doll Serenella. We use this card for its rearguard ability as well. When this unit attack or boost, if you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard Direful Doll on its card name until the end of the battle, you may have this unit plus 5,000. If you do at the end of that battle, bind this unit. So an additional boost power that can provide, but then placing into the bind zone to then once again be used as a potential, guard card. There should always be cards in your bind zone. That's the very important thing to remember when using this deck. For the rest of the grade 1s, 1 copy of Elementaria Sanctitude and the 3 copies of Ridicule Disruptor, just for the Sentinel lineup, whether we go up against a triple drive deck or just have the cards in hand to preserve to use for some guards that cards from the bind zone in our hand may not just be able to guard against. And then for the last of the orders, 1 copy of Gradius Gordel for our Regalis piece, so we have another means to Persona Ride in this deck, because the big thing we want also is just pressure for our rear guards and our Vanguard to be able to attack with. For the trigger lineup, I have 7 critical. I would want to run 4 copies of Direful Doll Bethany, just have the 3, sadly, in the deck. You could replace it with a copy of Light Elemental Pachiri for a 4th copy of Bethany, and then the copies of the Stem Deviate Dragon, just as the ability trigger also. The 4 copies of the front trigger, being Diablos Girls Natalia. This is subjective. It could be, a draw if you wish for more hand consistency, but just added pressure to the front row on top of the Persona Ride is always useful. And then the additional 5k shield that this card also gets, with the last of the cards being the heals. 2 copies of Direful Doll Alexandria, being another Direful Doll target, along with the 2 Direful Doll Charmaine as more shield options. If your Vanguard's grade is less than your opponent's Vanguard, it pops up, having that additional plus 10 shield along. If you used it for the bind option, it could be a 25k guard in total. Very, very useful in these certain situations. And then our over trigger being the Spiritual King of Ignition Valnut for the added rear guard attack pressure also. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed. Once again, big thanks to my buddy Jim for letting me borrow his Direful Doll deck for the video. And as always, until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. And Kira Qualia out.